Hello today and welcome back to Sky the Third. We are finishing up Moon Door number 3. Let's go find Lecter.
I knew I'd find you here.
Oh, look who we've got here. Great weather, huh?
Perhaps so, but you can't honestly believe I came to talk to you about the weather. If you have enough free time to laze around on the roof, come and do some work. Everyone could use your help, you know.
Hey, they need me a lot less than you'd think. And predicting the weather 10 years in the future takes a lot of brain power, you know? I need to concentrate right now.
How does he think up these things? Still, going by my experience with him, when he acts like this, he's usually willing to listen to me. Hey, Lecter? I just wanted to say thanks.
Thanks? For what?
A lot of things, really. You've done an awful lot to help me ever since I enrolled here. But because you're always trying to act like you aren't, or you're running away from me, I've never been able to say thanks for any of it. I feel like I owe it to you.
Yeah, I'm lost. I got no clue what you're talking about.
You asked me a long time ago what it was that I came here to do, didn't you? I hated the life I had before enrolling here. I always felt like I was being pushed around by everyone and everything around me instead of really achieving anything for myself. And it was that I hated most of all. I felt empty, worthless. That was part of why I didn't want to try and answer your question, or even think about it. It was like if I accepted how weak I was inside, I'd never be able to get any stronger. But that's not how I feel now. I'm not empty at all anymore. Thanks to coming here and meeting you and all of my friends, I've learned so many new things. I was able to do things for myself too, instead of just relying on others for everything.
Yeah?
So that's why I wanted to thank you.
Man, I told you before you were too serious, right? You've been thinking about that one offhand thing all this time? I never saw that coming.
You're trying to make fun of me again, aren't you? What about you, though? Why did you choose to come here?
Me? I had nothing better to do, I guess. Seemed like a good way to kill time.
Really? Well, as long as you're here, you may as well do some work. Wait! Tomorrow is the Student Council's general meeting, which means you have a lot to do. And you need to do it all by the end of the day. There's a mountain of it just waiting for you to get started on.
Hold up a second. Don't do this, Chloe. I can explain.
I'm not going to listen.
Spare me, please!
This was the first and last chance I ever had to thank Lecter for all he did for me. The day after that year's Academy Festival, he suddenly registered his intent to withdraw from school, and was never seen there again. He was himself to the very end, though, making a sudden appearance in the Student Council organized play's final scene, ruining it for his amusement. Then 2 years later, I ended up meeting him once more, in a place and a way I never would have expected.
Side story, Descended Wings finished. That's a solid door. That's a good moon door. But I'm glad that we actually left the final, 4 minutes of it for this video. Why not just finish it up last time? Well, why don't we go back to the Hermit's Garden? We got a couple of good boys to wrangle up. Talking about my dudes. Where are they? First, let's get Ollie, and of course, Major Vander. Let's head over to Star Door number 8. Just how are these two doors related to one another? Let's find out. Things are about to get very imperial up in this bitch. Bring to me the playful minstrel and his closest ally against the beast they seek to overcome. Only then shall the door open. I shall grant to you a memory fragment and my blessing. One month after the collapse of the Liberl Arc, the banquet to celebrate the crisis' successful resolution was over, with Estelle and her friends having largely left the capital to go elsewhere. One of them, however, Prince Albert Ries Argent, sat rather comfortably in the ambassador's office in Grancel's Erebonian embassy, his work in the country not quite settled.
I can't believe that you... I mean, my deepest apologies for not noticing that you were His Highness Prince Albert sooner.
Oh, I'm not surprised you never realized. I may be a prince, but my mother was a commoner. What point is there in bothering to remember my face? It's not as though I often showed myself in the palace or attended high society gatherings. Knowing me certainly isn't going to help you in moving up the ranks, my friend.
There's no need to be so humble, Your Highness.
Besides, I'm actually rather grateful to you, Ambassador. You gave me all kinds of useful advice during my stay here at the embassy that I'm sure will be to my benefit in the future. Well-meant words such as, act like a man of the Empire for once in your life, and stop idling here, go home, and try doing some damned work.
Your Highness, I was only...
Your Highness, I think you've tormented him enough for one day. The ambassador behaved in the same way any other sane man would in his position. If anything, I'd say he has every right to be angry at us for keeping the truth from him for so long.
But Mueller...
Ah, I suppose you're right. I'll spare him any more teasing for now. I actually wasn't joking about being grateful to you, though. You truly have done admirable work over the past month.
I have?
Acting as a pipeline with the Empire, checking the safety of Erebonians residing in Liberl, helping the international liner service to resume. And those are only the tip of the iceberg. You've done so much more. You have my deepest thanks as a prince of the Empire.
I am not worthy of such praise, Your Highness. You, however, deserve the utmost for braving the danger you did flying up to the Liberl Arc. All of what happened seems to have caused quite the commotion in our homeland, so the people seem to be rather relieved now that they know the danger has passed. It's all thanks to your courage that they were able to rest easy.
Oh, there's no point in flattering me, Ambassador. I just did what I could. Nothing more, nothing less. And I couldn't have done anything alone. All I was able to accomplish was thanks to the help of those around me. I'm fairly removed from the stereotype of Erebonians as stern, strong, and self-sufficient, if I do say so myself.
As rude as it may be to agree, perhaps you're correct. And yet I believe your willingness to be flexible most definitely helped rather than hindered you here. I believe people like you are exactly what the Empire is going to need in the future. Regardless of how I may feel about His Excellency the Chancellor's approach.
Ambassador. Well, this is a surprise. I was under the impression that you supported the Chancellor. Then again, you are a noble. Does that lead you to oppose his reformist policies, perhaps?
I may be a noble on paper, but I'm only a baron. All in all, I generally fall in favor of his reformist policies. Be that as it may, while this may just be the result of being in Liberl for so long and being influenced by the way of its people, I do sometimes find myself becoming frightened by his hardline approach. I can't help but wonder exactly what direction he's taking our old nation.
Interesting.
Your Highness?
Oh, I was just thinking that I'm quite glad to have taken the chance to engage in such a fruitful talk with you just before departing the country. I pray you will continue doing all you can to ensure the peace of Liberl and its surrounding nations while I'm gone. Preferably in cooperation with Ambassador Cochrane.
Yes. Let's not forget her, I suppose. Still, it's true that since the Non-Aggression Pact was signed, there has been some progress with regards to the Crossbell problem. And given that it was Liberl who proposed said pact, that makes my role in future negotiations very important indeed. I presume that is what you were trying to say.
You're a sharp one, my good man. Excellent. Now I can return to the capital with my mind at ease.
Leave everything here to me, Your Highness. I will be looking forward to hearing what you achieve back in our homeland.
This truly is a country like no other. I never thought the day would come when I would hear things like that from a noble of the Empire. Indeed, he's apparently somewhat less of an obstinate man than I thought he was. Perhaps this nation's very air has the power to genuinely change people. It seems to have had an effect on you, too. I feel like I'm seeing a lot more smiles from you these days than I used to. I'm loath to admit it, but that may well be true. I still find myself wishing that you would learn from Liberlian's dignity and sense of restraint, however. Two qualities you don't particularly possess in any measure. In fact, you have far too much of their opposites. You say that, but these qualities are the only weapon that I have. I don't have much that will allow me to compete against the Chancellor. I need to use what little happens to be tucked in my corner as best I can. Have there been any changes to our plans? None. We should be able to proceed as arranged. 3 days ago, the Chancellor left the capital on a tour of eastern Erebonia. Tomorrow you will be returning there aboard the Arcel while he's still out in the east. All those who need to be made aware of our return have been given proper notice. Your arrival in Erebonia will make a real impact. Of that I am certain. What potential obstructions to the plan are there at present? Nothing major. There have been some movements in the Intelligence Division's 4th subdivision, but not much. There's a chance that everyone is being cautious because the Arcel is involved. But I'd put greater odds on the idea that everyone is just treating this as a pompous performance by you, and not taking it seriously. Well, they'd be right to. It is. I've no choice but to start here, even if that means I have to use Liberl. And if I'm going to put on a show, why not put on the finest one the skies have ever seen? I suppose I can't argue that. I'm sorry to trouble you at this late hour, Your Highness. A message has arrived for you from Heimdall. What would you have me do? Really? Alright. Come in. Pardon me. Well, if it isn't Lecter. I was wondering where you'd been. I haven't seen you all day. I've been exceptionally busy with work since this morning, I'm afraid. I'd hoped to be able to come and see you earlier since you will be leaving tomorrow. I'm terribly sorry for not being able to. Oh, never mind that. If that work of yours is done now, we three could always enjoy some sensual quality time together for the remainder of the night. So what was the message from the Capital Secretary? They've acknowledged receipt of His Highness' message. However, they didn't anticipate that you may be able to arrive all the way from Grand Cell in less than half a day. As such, they're currently in a minor panic trying to ensure everything's ready for the ceremony tomorrow. That doesn't come as a surprise. There's nothing like the Arcel when it comes to speed at home. Oh, how cruel you both are for so deftly ignoring my proposal. Although it sounds as though the stage will be set in time. Now I need to decide on an outfit that will leave everyone's jaws on the floor to sweeten my arrival. Perhaps the glistening coat and white loincloth will do the trick. That'd make a grand impact, alright. I almost wish I could go along and see it myself. Please don't encourage him. You show remarkable promise for someone so young. What do you say to coming back on the Arcel with me? I'd welcome your company. Your work here in Liberl is just about done as it is, isn't it? Your offer is certainly tempting, but I'm afraid I have another job to take care of soon. The thought is appreciated, of course. Really? Well, that is a shame. Good luck with that next job of yours. Thank you. Well, if you'll excuse me. So, that is Second Secretary Lecter Arundel. Is it safe to assume he's one of the Chancellors? Almost definitely yes. He came through Hawken Gate on foot and took up his new position at the embassy a month ago. And right around the same time we headed to the Liberl Arc aboard the Arcel at that. There's no way that could possibly be coincidence. No, it couldn't. The most likely possibility seems to be that he's part of the Intelligence Division. Are you sure not doing anything regarding him all this time was a good idea? Oh, absolutely. We need some way to find out what the Chancellor was up to after all. We'll probably get some kind of reaction from the Chancellor through his reports at some point. Probably in about 2 weeks when the Chancellor's tour is finished. You'd planned that far ahead all along, had you? Well, in that case, I'll be sure that we're ready. I'll be counting on you, love. Oh. Something the matter? Not really. It's just that the moon has come out. And what a beautiful full moon it is. It's strange to think that this will be the last time we'll see the moon from here. Truth be told, I'm going to miss it. Well, well, it looks like putting a smile on your face a little more often isn't the only thing Liberl's done for you. It's opened up your eyes to life's natural beauty as well. But in all seriousness, we'll just have to do all we can to be able to come back and see it again one day. While we're both still alive. Indeed. The next morning. Your Majesty, Your Highness, I humbly thank you both for your generous hospitality during my stay in your fine kingdom. You were even gracious enough to humor my brazen request of escorting me back to Heimdall aboard the Arcel. This debt I owe you will be repaid many times over in the future. Rest assured of that. Oh, you needn't think of this as anything we went out of our way for. Escorting an honored state guest back home is a matter of course. Particularly a guest to whom we owe a great debt of gratitude. If you ever have the opportunity, please do come back to Liberl again in the future. I imagine Estelle and Joshua will be back by then too. So we'll be able to give you a nice warm welcome. Huh, I'm already excited for my next visit. Have they left the country yet, by the way? They're busy getting ready to leave over in Relent at the moment, I believe. I'm planning to see them off when the time comes. I see. Incidentally, while the ruins of Hamel are currently sealed off, I'll do what I can on my end to ensure that they're allowed inside. Could I trouble you to pass that along to them? Certainly. Thank you very much, Your Highness. Oh, think nothing of it. It's the least I could do after all they've done for me. I owe you a great deal too, Cassius. If not for your assistance, stopping that armored division from crossing into Liberl wouldn't have been as simple as it was. I could say the same to you. Still, as I'm sure you're aware, the outcome will have been well within the realm of the possibility for the Chancellor. I doubt he was even surprised by the incident. Really? Most likely not. Erebonia had nothing to gain from using that situation to occupy Liberl. Certainly not to the extent that it would be worth going out of their way to develop inefficient steam tanks. The only reason I can see for him doing what he did was a show of power to surrounding nations, a statement that even without horrible power, Erebonia's army could still act. I indeed suspect that was his true aim all along. Goodness. So you did notice. The orbital shutdown phenomenon was a complete unknown to the rest of the continent. Perhaps it might never occur again, but there's always the chance it might, whether it's here or somewhere else entirely. I hear the Empire only built a relatively small number of those tanks in all, too. Certainly not enough to launch a full-scale invasion. By the sounds of it, they were just put together in Reinford's factories using parts intended for standard orbital tanks. But as it stands, the know-how to put together tanks like that only exists in the Empire. And in these unpredictable times, no other nation has the time or resources to try and develop extremely inefficient steam-powered weaponry. In a sense, because of what just happened, the Imperial Army's effect as a deterrent is even greater than ever. He's using war as a diplomatic tool, and very effectively at that. None of this had ever occurred to me. I have a long way to go before I'm fit to be the ruler of this country. Don't beat yourself up too much about it. He's no ordinary foe to even the most hardened veterans. The Chancellor always seems to be thinking several steps ahead of the rest of the world. It's impressive, no matter what we may think of his actual ideas. I'm quite the reckless fool to be trying to challenge him, if I do say so myself. Don't be silly, Your Highness. How can you say that with a smile on your face is utterly beyond me? You should focus on building yourself a strong foothold to begin with. I do hope you'll be careful. No matter what may occur, be sure not to lose sight of exactly where you stand. Of course, Your Majesty. If I were to go and bring shame upon myself now, I'd be wasting all the effort involved in escorting me back home. I'll be sure to take what you have said to heart. Excuse me, Your Majesty. Hilda? Whatever's the matter? It's not often I see you so flustered. My apologies, Your Majesty. It's just that a guest for you arrived all of a sudden at the castle. Ordinarily, I would not have rushed in while you were meeting with others, but the visitor is so irregular that I thought you should know at once.
Irregular? How so? It sounds like it's about time I take my leave then. Actually, the visitor said he would like to greet you as well, and not just Her Majesty. What? Hilda, just who is this visitor? Well, he introduced himself as Chancellor Gileath Osborne of the Erebonian Empire. Boo! Boo!
Ah, it's an honor to be granted a personal audience. I'm Gileath Osborne, representative of the Imperial Government. My apologies for the abrupt intrusion.
So you are Chancellor Osborne?
And it's a pleasure to see you again as well, Your Highness. It's been a year since we last met, has it not? I hope these passing months have seen you well.
Yes, a year sounds about right. Still, I hope you'll forgive me for asking. Just what did prompt someone of your stature to appear at the castle without warning? I'd very much like to hear your side of the story.
My apologies, Your Highness. You see, these past few days I have been touring Eastern Erebonia on routine inspections. It's been going very smoothly, more so than I had initially anticipated. I had enough free time in my schedule to pay a cordial visit.
Oh my, is that so?
Naturally, I would have preferred to come here while the crisis was still unfolding, like you yourself did, Your Highness. Unfortunately, the confusion in southern Erebonia was simply too pressing a matter. I had no choice but to deal with that first. This was the first chance that presented itself to come here and meet directly with Her Majesty, so I acted with the utmost expediency. I hope you'll forgive my lack of proper decorum in failing to give advance notice of my arrival.
That does make sense, at least. Regardless, please don't concern yourself with me. No doubt you wish to offer your greetings to Her Majesty.
My thanks, Your Highness. Well then, allow me to extend my most heartfelt greetings to both of you, Queen Alicia and Princess Claudia. It's abundantly clear that the crisis that unfolded here has been quite the ordeal for yourselves and your nation's people. You have my deepest sympathies for the hardships you have endured, as well as the commendation for bringing the situation under control.
I thank you for your kind words, Your Excellency. If anything, we should be apologizing to you for the fact that the southern side of your nation was caught up in what should have been our problem. We should be the ones going to you, rather than having you trouble yourself to come all the way to Liberl. I beg you to accept our apologies together with my deepest thanks for coming here today.
I would never ask for apologies. I've heard what happened was the work of a shadowy organization stirring up trouble within your borders. While I meant well by sending a military force to aid you, I wouldn't have done something so careless had I known the truth of the matter. My actions were rash, foolish even, and I was rightfully reprimanded by His Imperial Majesty for them.
Oh my.
Fortunately, His Highness the Prince was able to act with all due haste to put right my misstep before even greater harm was done. I owe you a great debt of gratitude for that, Your Highness. And congratulations besides, for your part in bringing an end to the crisis.
Oh, I did nothing out of the ordinary. I had a lot of help from Her Majesty, Her Highness, and Brigadier General Bright here too.
Bright, you say? It's a pleasure to meet you, Your Excellency. I am Cassius Bright, a Brigadier General in the Liberlian Royal Army. Haha, a pleasure is all mine, I assure you. Your name is rather well known even in the Empire. Not as much as yours is known here in Liberl, I would imagine. It's an honor to be able to speak with you in person. It's certainly a surprise to be able to, though. Coming here on a whim can't have been easy for a man as busy as yourself. It sounds as though I may have underestimated just how capable you truly are. Not at all. I was greatly impressed to see the Royal Army's effectiveness in dealing with the tumult here. Your forces have proven powerful yet flexible, capable of dealing with emergencies ably and decisively. I might go so far as to say it embodies an ideal that the Imperial Army, with its swollen ranks, could never hope to realize. You flatter us, Your Excellency. For your part, I hear you were responsible for the establishment of the Imperial Army's famed intelligence division. Our army is in desperate need of a new one of its own, so I find myself quite envious. It almost sounds as though the two of us each want what the other has. So it does. May I ask, Your Excellency, what you will be doing now? For my part, I'm intending to leave Liberl today, so I'm afraid I won't be around much longer. Yes, so I've been told. I believe you're intending to make your grand arrival in Heimdall aboard the famous Arcel. I'm impressed you're already aware. I almost wish I could return to Erebonia on board it alongside you. But alas, I'm afraid I have other business demanding my attention after I'm finished here. I'll be leaving Liberl separately this afternoon.
That is a shame. I would very much have liked to invite you to this evening's banquet.
Please, you need not go to such troubles on my account. I feel as though I put out enough showing up unannounced as I did, to say nothing of dining with such esteemed company. Still, I do have some time before the airship I'll be leaving on is due to depart. That being the case, might I ask for a little of your time, Your Highness? I have a few things I would like to discuss with you personally. Heh. Very well. I have some matters I would actually like to discuss personally with you as well. What a fortuitous coincidence.
Allow me to have a room arranged for the two of you to have your discussion then. Hilda, if you would. Certainly, Your Majesty.
That's right. Meet the Blood and Iron Chancellor, Gileath Osborne. I don't think I'm doing a great job of depicting him. In the future, he'll have a very excellent English voice actor, Peter Beckman, who really captures his powerful, low, booming, intimidating voice. Ah, it's obvious that Her Majesty is quite the tea fancier, if this blend is anything to go by. The fragrance, the temperature, the taste. I'd be hard-pressed to find fault with any of it. I've always been more of a coffee man myself, but I have no doubt that I'd be content with a cup of this at my desk each morning. As much as I agree with you, I don't believe we're here to talk about beverages. So shall we get right to the point? What did you want to discuss with me? I see your sojourn in Liberl has proven most fruitful. Pardon? When we last spoke, you struck me as a bright, flexible young man. I no doubt you still are, but now I see you in a resilient inner strength girding those aspects. I'm sure His Majesty will be most delighted with your personal development. Meanwhile, I see you're the same fearless man I've always known you to be. More so even. That crushing aura about you seems to have only grown with time. It's as if you feed on the resentment of those who live in the territories you annex. Such harsh words, Your Highness. Personally, I prefer the term political unification. Annex can carry such negative connotations, you know. Since the end of the 100 Days' War, our army hasn't committed a single act of aggression. All our unifications have been entirely peaceful. Oh, you're quite right about that. On the surface. Oh? It's amazing how similar the annexation process is every single time it happens. It starts with a small nation or independent state with a small array of problems beyond repair. Those problems start to worsen, after which Jaegers and other dangerous elements enter, plunging public order to an all-time low. Desperate for a solution, the local government requests help from the Imperial Army. Before they know it, they're part of the Empire. Well, it's not as though I can deny what you're saying. Each instance does share certain commonalities. Still, it's to be expected, an inevitable consequence of the age of unchecked growth and progress in which we live. The Imperial Army is simply acting in the Empire's best interest, helping to stabilize our neighbors for the good of the Empire. And it's understandable that they would. I do find myself rather curious why Intelligence Division members are going to such nations with such peculiar frequency. Well before the problems I described worsen, no less. I won't press as to where you came by such information, as curious as I am. But I will say this. At its most basic level, these actions are about risk management. It's because we've been acting to minimize such risk beforehand that the army has been able to successfully quell each problem in turn. With the small price of earning the disdain of the people in those nations and an increased risk of terrorism in exchange. To tell you the truth, I'm rather astounded that you had the courage to come here to Liberl all on your own to begin with. After all, you've earned yourself the biggest target for terrorists in all of Erebonia. Your concern is touching, Your Highness. I would ask that you not trouble yourself with my safety. I employ some very skilled subordinates tasked primarily with eliminating the risk of terrorist attacks against me. Really now, that Lecter is one of those, I assume. A rather peculiar fellow, isn't he? but a very useful one all the same. Working out the scheduling for this trip and taking all the necessary precautions to ward off terrorist threats were both his doing. And thanks to his commendable efforts, I can depart for Crossbell free from worries as soon as I've finished my business here. Crossbell? Are you surprised? I'll be participating in a top-secret discussion with a representative of the Crossbell government. Recently, a large amount of funding has been flowing into the country through Republican channels, putting our allies on the defensive. I'd always meant to visit at some point, and this seemed the perfect opportunity. Are you out of your mind? Crossbell is full of enemies and different factions at each other's throats. I hear it's now even a hotbed for terrorists and criminal organizations because of its position as a buffer state. Does that really sound like a place the Erebonian Chancellor should be going even on an unofficial visit? I'm surprised to hear you advocating caution in the face of potential danger, Your Highness. After all, it was you who flew on to an ancient city, at great risk to your own safety, and returned unharmed after surveying it. Compared to such rousing risk-taking, my visit to Crossbell will be child's play. As I'm sure you're aware, you're regarded as something of a hero back in Erebonia now. To see a hero make a grand return befitting his newly minted legend, and aboard the famous Arcel no less. Naturally, our hero has also taken the time to ensure that every well-known newspaper and magazine are aware of his homecoming too. I have no doubts that your triumphant arrival will be every bit as glorious as it is played out in your imaginings, Your Highness. Do be sure to capitalize on this chance as best you can to build yourself a firm foothold. I expect great things from you after all. Think about any time you've ever seen Ollie get that angry. Scree! Hey, buddy. You haven't changed a bit, huh? Scree, scree, scree. Scree, scree, scree. Really? Sounds like a ton's happened, huh? But it's nice to see you and your master are doing alright. Scree! Lecter? Well, good day to you, Your Highness. I pray I'm not causing any trouble by taking a tour of the castle like this. The view from this terrace certainly is beautiful, isn't it? What happened to you, Lecter? How did you end up working for Chancellor Osborne? I'm sorry, I haven't the faintest idea what you mean. Are you perchance mistaking me for someone else? Your name is Lecter Arundel. You were the student council president at Genis Royal Academy, which you attended before leaving suddenly 2 years ago. So no, I'm not mistaking you for someone else. But that's where you're wrong, because my name is actually Lecter Arundel. I can certainly see how our names could become mixed up, however. They are scarily close. Still, now you know. Please, just call me Lech. Don't try and joke around with me, Lecter. Do you have any idea how worried all of us were when you just disappeared without a word? You submitted your notice to leave the academy, and then were never seen again. Even the otherwise calm Leo let out a cry of anger when he found out, and all Lucy could do was give a sad smile and say, "This is just like him," the whole time with tears in her eyes. Jill and Hans were heartbroken, and so was I. Yet after all that, after all this time, you finally show yourself, knowing full well that I'm here, and this is how you act? By pretending you're someone else? Lecter! Sorry. No need for the scary glare. You're still taking things way too seriously. Looks like it'll take more than stepping up as Crown Princess to change that part of you. Oh. But you know, seeing you makes me feel kind of relieved. I always figured that if someone like you became Crown Princess, you'd have virtually no freedom to do anything other than work. But from all that's reached my ears, it sounds like you're actually doing alright for yourself. And you even made some great new friends after I left the academy, didn't you? Nice. I sure did. Nonetheless, it's thanks to you I was able to change it all. You were the one who gave me the first push in the right direction. I never got the chance to thank you properly after you left. But all this time, I've always been grateful to you, Well, consider me honored. Do I get a kiss in return?
You do not. I may feel respect towards you, but nothing romantic.
Ah, that's a bummer. There was me all taken in by how pretty you'd become, wondering if this could be the start of something downright magical. And what happens instead? My dreams of romance and sweet smooches are crushed to nothing before they can even begin.
I know you don't mean a word of that, you know. You're looking very sharp yourself, though. It's surprising to see. Every time I've seen you before today, it was in that heavily frayed uniform worn in the most sloppy way imaginable.
I think you'll find I was merely making a fashion statement. That wasn't laziness or slobbishness. Every part of it was carefully calculated and considered to have maximum effect.
The scary thing is, I actually believe you. You always seemed as if you cared for nothing but having fun and causing trouble. Yet when it came down to it, you were wise beyond your years. And I've finally seen part of the reason behind that today. I'll ask you again, Lecter. How did you end up working for Chancellor Osborne like this? Just what happened to you between you submitting your notice to leave the Academy and now?
Do you now? I have to admit, I never imagined that would be the case. On the contrary, I was expecting you to tell me to back off. Oh, Adios forbid. What reason would I have to suggest such a thing? After all, at the end of the day, our positions are functionally the same. I'm not sure I understand. Do you not think so? Personally, I find it difficult to believe that you would not harbor some hatred toward Erebonia as it is today. A grand empire clinging to the glories of a bygone era, ruled by the nobility and shackled by meaningless conventions. Am I wrong? People call me the Blood and Iron Chancellor as though I hold the whole of Erebonia in the palm of my hand. But in reality, my position is far more tenuous. I have supporters and allies in the capital, certainly, but outside its walls, the nobility holds far more sway than any of them. And while it is true that I hold a great amount of power in the form of the Imperial Army, even then, I only truly command around 70% of it. The remainder is loyal to the nobility, who also maintain their own private armies. With those factored in, my advantage shrinks substantially. So you see, I'm still very much in the midst of a battle to truly exert control. Which is why you're building railways all over the country to expand your area of influence. And you've been annexing new territory to that same end. As I've long thought, you clearly understand me better than anyone else. That is why I'll say this once again. Work with me, Your Highness. With your support, our nation will be able to bring about real reform faster than ever. The noble faction, bloated with its centuries of decadence, can be stopped before they even have the chance to unify against us. Surely that's what you desire more than anything. Let me just ask one simple question, Chancellor. What connection do you have with Ouroboros? I'm afraid I'm not quite sure what you're asking. I will say this, however. I'm a firm believer in using every resource at my disposal in the name of achieving reform. That's the way I believe in handling politics. I see. Well, it certainly does seem as though you would see eye to eye in many ways. And that's all the more reason why I'm afraid I must refuse your offer. Is that so? Yes, I find it difficult to like the rotten noble faction that exists in the Empire. Or, perhaps you're right that hate is the more appropriate word. But my feelings of fear towards your methods are far greater than my feelings of hatred towards the nobles. What you seem to be doing is trying to compel Erebonians with a delusive utopia, to whip them into an enthusiastic frenzy. No doubt by successfully convincing the people, the old guard will fall into the metaphorical firestorm created. And yet by then the gears will have already begun turning. There will be no satisfying a roused populace with a thirst for revolution. The storm will just keep growing larger and more ravenous, engulfing anything and everything in its wake. You know this, don't you, Chancellor? But of course! After all, that's what I intend to happen. It's the first stage of my reforms. I'd be more than happy to share further details with you if you were to decide to work with me, Your Highness. In the meantime, I wish you well in strengthening your foothold back in the Empire. Of course, if that's your intention, You'll find it a necessity to work with those nobles you so despise. You truly do see through everything, don't you? Well, that sounds like the noon bell. The airship should be arriving shortly. Which means it's time for me to take my leave, I'm afraid. I look forward to seeing you again in the capital in 2 weeks' time. I take it the discussion is over then. What's wrong? You look awfully tired. Oh, nothing. I'm just feeling odd and new at what a monster I decided to pick a fight with. Oopsie, I think it's probably about time for the airship to arrive. I'm gonna have to stop you there and get going. What? See you, Xseed. Next time I see you, I'll bring you some Erebonian salami as a souvenir, okay? Scree! But wait, are you planning to just disappear without telling me anything a second time? Oh, got an important question for you. Did you fall in love with someone while I was away? Hit the nail on the head, huh? Aw, that's so cute. First love, right? How's that feel? Heart all aflutter 1 minute, into the world the next. Don't you dare start teasing me. But you're right, though. I did. He rejected me in this very spot not that long ago. Wait, you're joking, right? There's a coincidence I didn't see coming. I'm not so sure about that. It feels like you know everything sometimes. Huh. I'm not some kind of all-knowing, all-seeing divinity. That's what makes the world so interesting to me. Oh! I'm happy for you, Chloe. Knowing the pain of lost love's what makes a girl blossom, in my humble opinion. Do you feel like the whole experience let you get a step closer to the person you want to be? Well... What about you? Do you feel you're getting closer to becoming the person that you want to be? By being at the Chancellor's side? Kinda hard to do that when I don't have a person I want to be to begin with. I'm just sticking with him because it feels like it'll be fun, that's all. I've been doing it since before I joined the academy, in fact. You have? That prince is proving surprisingly capable, but he still isn't a match for the Chancellor. Tell him to watch his back, alright? So that he doesn't get swallowed up by that monster after he gets tired of dancing. Goodbye, Lecter. Thank you all for waiting. The Calabria International Airliner bound for the Principality of Remiferia will be departing momentarily. Please mind your footing when boarding. Boo! Boo this man! So that was the Blood and Iron Chancellor. I can't believe he actually went out of his way to use a civilian airship when he probably has a private one of his own. I'd heard rumors about how out of the ordinary he is, but he lives up to all of them. He keeps me on my toes, to put it playfully enough. And beside, thanks for coming all this way to see me off, Shara. I was lucky I just happened to have business here at the right time. It feels like this is going to be the last chance we get to see one another for a while after all. Rather unfortunate. as my dream is and always was to live away my days in the lap of luxury, surrounded by women as beautiful as you. Well, good luck with that. Changing the subject, though. Who was the young man at the Chancellor's side? He didn't strike me as your ordinary guy. Oh, you could tell? But of course. I'd say I'm used to running into people who are out of the ordinary at this point. You've sure fought enough of them. His name's Ries Argent. He's a secretary who was sent here by the Imperial government. Apparently he was the one who planned out all the details of the Chancellor's visit to Liberl. I can't pretend to know much regarding his background, but he's exceptionally skilled at what he does. Actually, I know a little. What? Oh? Is that true? Yes. Claudia explained that Lecter once attended the same academy as her and had served as its student council president. She also mentioned about his sudden disappearance after the academy festival 2 years ago. Unbelievable. Then, someone connected to the Chancellor had visited Liberl first. Then he's very likely to have had his own veritable information network established here long before I even came up with the idea. I think that's safe to assume that's the case. Which also means that it's safe to assume he knows every detail about all that's happened here since. From the coup d'etat to the crisis regarding the Ariel, all of it. This man gets more unbelievable by the minute. He actually gave me a message to pass on to you earlier too. Watch your back so you don't get swallowed up by that monster when you get tired of dancing. He sure knows how to sting where it hurts, doesn't he? I feel like I can see a whole new world of pleasure opening up before my eyes. He should know better. Getting outdone at every turn like this really is not my style. What do you mean? Captain Schwartz, I have a little favor I'd like to ask for when we're in the air. Haha, I'm rather impressed with how Prince Albert has come along. No matter how he chooses to act from here on, he will have his uses, to be certain. You would say that, given that you think of everyone as your pawns. There's me, the prince, that's society. Indeed, I am much the same. We are but pawns of the vast game board that is the Empire, where a thrill like no other will take place. But it's because you too wish to see how that game plays out that you've chosen to stand with me, is it not? Well, hey, what can I say? Just don't forget that this piece right here might not be loyal forever. And such a betrayal would be perfectly fine by me. Or did you honestly think I'd never consider the possibility it may happen? Just thought I'd come out and say it. How are the other Ironbloods doing, by the way? They're all doing very well by the sound of it. At the rate things are going, there's a chance all of the prince's efforts will be for naught. Perhaps I ought to hold back on him a little. You sure don't pull any punches, do you? You know something? I wouldn't write him off so easily if I were in your shoes. What? What? These look like rose petals? If you look out the windows on the right-hand side of the airship, you will be able to see the famous high-speed cruiser, the Arcel. We've been informed that it is on its way to the Imperial capital with Prince Oliver to the Erebonian Empire on board. But he has also given us a message to relay to all the passengers on board today. I give thanks to Adios for the good fortune to have been able to meet you today. May your journey be filled with beautiful roses and her blessings. And of course, may your journey to your homes be a safe and pleasant one. That marks the end of his message.
I never thought there was a bigger dumbass in this world than me, and yet here we are.
Very well, debaucherous prince. I look forward to seeing what you can do. Show me how long you can hold out against me. Side story, Return to the Empire finished. Let the games begin. Let the battle commence. Ollie's declaration of war on the Blood and Iron Chancellor. Ooh, that's a good star door. I love that. That's my third favorite door in this game, and you can obviously tell why. First off, that's the first, on-screen appearance of the Chancellor, more or less. I mean, if you want to get, like, real specific and, anal about it, technically he's in the animated opening for this game, but whatever. Who cares about that, right? But overall, that should be about his first appearance, other than the fact that we heard tons about him. So a lot's happened in this video, and before we end, I want to review some of it. And it goes back to the end of the Moon Door, to be honest. And so Lecter leaves Genis suddenly, and now we know that before he even became a student there, he was already tied to the Chancellor. He is Erebonian, by the way. He is Erebonian by birth. He's from the Empire and was attending as a transfer student or foreign exchange student, whatever. And he probably had underlying motives for being in Liberl in the first place, as they kind of concluded there at the very end in regards to the fact that there's a chance that Osborne already had some sort of intelligence network completely laid out for years now. And as Mueller and Olvert spoke about at the Erebonian embassy, they said, like, Lecter's official title and what he was doing at the castle and at the embassy was he's a secretary. He's a secretary of the Empire. He's a diplomat representative. But underneath it, he's probably not just that. They said he's probably connected to the intelligence division, meaning that he's a spy. And it was obviously Lecter Arundel, who pieced together everything that Olvert and Mueller were doing. He was helping plan it in the first place, but he was relaying all of it to the Chancellor. And Osborne, being the dick that he is and having to, get the last word in and show people up, decided to change his plans, make a sudden visit to Liberl to flex his muscle, and let Ollie know who's boss. You could argue that second chapter and then the third have asked a big question. You can trace it back to the end of, chapter 8 up at Hawken Gate, when the Imperial Army marches, and we hear Ollie's, entire theory that Osborne was in contact with Ouroboros in some way, and now this entire Star Door 8, where we finally get to meet him and he gets to talk. These two games present a really big question in the Trail series, which is, what is his problem? Why is Gileath Osborne such a dick? It's a good question. What is his deal? And that's a question that, from when this game came out, it would take Falcom 11 years to answer that question. Why is Osborne such an asshole? He's definitely been the marquee, antagonist in this franchise. Because he's going to be in so many games moving forward. We're going to see him in almost every game from here on out. We're going to see him a lot. And he's just an asshole. He knows how to get under your skin. And if you want to punch him after that door, I don't blame you. They want you to not like him. He is the most perfectly crafted heel in this series. I hate him. I also don't like Lecter at all. Obviously I went into Moon Door 3 being like, someone's going to get on my nerves. And I was talking about Lecter. And Lecter, anytime I see Lecter, I kind of want to punch him in the face. And it's not just because he's a stupid slacker or you meet him as a goofball who's always causing trouble. Nope, that's not why I dislike him. I dislike him because he's one of Osborne's guys. And there's a term for him. They mentioned what that term was. The Ironbloods. Ironbloods are, they are Osborne's, underlings. They are a group of people, young people, relatively young, like Lecter's age, roughly, who work directly for the Chancellor, and they could have other jobs in the Empire. They're his inner circle, his most trusted confidants. of which Lecter is one of them. And like they said, there are others, and we'll be meeting those others in the future. Now, there are a couple, I think, last couple things I want to touch on. I want to bring up the fact that in second chapter, there was a line in there that was changed in the PSP version of the game and to the PC one. Or rather, it was a line that when the game originally came out in 2015 for both platforms in English, eventually that line was changed in the PC version because the PC version got updates and the PSP version never did. And that line had to do with up at Hawken Gate, when Ollie says that Osborn's connected to Ouroboros in some way. And the original English line was something like that Ouroboros has sunk his fangs into him or whatever. And they changed it because the way that's written, it makes it sound like, oh, Ouroboros is controlling Osborn, or he's, you know, I don't know, part of their ranks in some way, which is not the case. What Osborn said to Olivert in that private conversation was true, in that he asked him, what's your relationship with Ouroboros? He says, I don't know what you're talking about, but I will say this. Any resources that like help me achieve my goals is fair game. He'll do whatever it takes for his goals. He will use anything at his disposal, including Ouroboros. And that means having a relationship with Ouroboros that resulted, for one, in them marching those steam tanks, but there's also a lot more to it than that. More that we're going to learn in this very game. Yeah, there's another door that's going to help connect some ties and make some other things that make sense from first and second chapter. Let's be clear and say that Gileath Osborn fears no one. He doesn't give a damn about anyone. Nothing scares him. So Ouroboros, he doesn't give a fuck about them. He'll use whatever he wants to get what he wants. He is ruthless, and he is the chess master. I think the only character in this series, in this entire franchise, that rivals him in terms of just like overall strategy and intellect is probably Cassius. Cassius is a really sharp dude. I mean, he's the guy who engineered the 100 Days War victory for Liberl and the airships and whatnot, and working with ZCF and pulling off that upset victory out of nowhere. But Osborn's maybe even sharper. He is several steps ahead, seemingly, of everyone. It's crazy, and now you know what he's like. And I suppose on that note, I should answer one more question, which is, given that he is a powerful man in the Empire, he's not the most powerful. Remember, there is an emperor of Erebonia. That would be Oliver's father, Argent III. So he's at the very top of the government. There is an imperial family, to which there's an empress, and there are other siblings. I remember I mentioned when we were aboard Liberl Arc that Ollie has younger siblings. But as we've heard, Ollie's mother was a commoner, and he called himself a royal bastard in second chapter because the empress is not his mother. He was born, presumably out of wedlock at this moment. And he has two younger siblings, substantially younger. They're like each 12 years younger than him, I want to say. I think that's right. I want to say they're 12 years younger than him. And I did mention a little bit about them in second chapter, I believe. And I said that they're twins. There's a fraternal twins, a princess and a prince. And his younger brother, the prince, is the crown prince. He has the same position that Claudia has in Liberl. And that's important to know because, like I said in second chapter, Ollie is not in position to inherit the throne of Erebonia. He's not in Chloe's position. Therefore, not that he would want to again, but therefore, changing Erebonia for the better, or trying to influence the future of the Empire, he has to get creative in the ways he does it. And part of that's his big declaration of war against the Chancellor because he doesn't agree with his methods, and he has to do it the way he's doing it because he has no right to succession. It's not like he's going to come into power someday and be able to remove Osborn. It's not going to work that way for him, but he's trying to do what he can in the position he does have. One final thing, there's a lot to talk about, I know, but one final thing I want to throw in there is, okay, so he's the High Chancellor of the Empire, not quite the top guy, theoretically, that should be the Emperor, but how long has he been in that position? Because obviously we have a bit of a landmark for Erebonian history, right? That being the 100 Days War and the Hummel tragedy. Was he the High Chancellor then? I'll let you know that he wasn't. He came into power shortly after that, and that's when he began adding all these reformist policies. Now, Ollie described him in second chapter, I believe, as a military man. Yes, he does have a history in the Imperial Army. That's how he kind of rose to rank and prominence and became known enough to become Chancellor. And he's also a commoner by birth. Erebonia, obviously, as we've known, has a class system between nobles and commoners. And in most of the Empire is essentially divided up into 4 or 5 regions. The capital, Heimdall, which we've heard name drop many times. I realized in an earlier video, Mueller said Heimdall, and I said his line, and I never explained what or where Heimdall was, because it's so second nature to me. But Heimdall is the imperial capital, located dead center in the Empire. That's like essentially its own kind of area, but beyond Heimdall, the Empire is divided into essentially 4 regions, 4 major provinces that are ruled by nobles, by major houses. They're called the 4 Great Houses, and we were flying over one of them in the prologue of this game. We were flying over the Croatian province, which is in southeastern Erebonia, and its capital we also heard about is called Bereahard. Well, these 4 regions have their, 4 heads of the noble houses, the 4 top guys, and then there are a lot of other lower class nobles, like I'm sure Cranog's family, wherever he's from, is in there somewhere. The Capulets used to be one of the smaller families. There are tons of them all across the Empire, and you don't need to worry about the structure too much. But they have a lot of power, and the nobles have, formed a faction within the government to really oppose Osborne, because they don't like him. They don't like this commoner dude who's really high and mighty on himself, who's making all these changes, and my nobility and whatever. They don't like him. But even though Osborne's a total dick and you have every reason to not trust him and hate his guts at this point, the people of Erebonia, the common people, like him a lot. He's a pretty good politician. He's a good governor. He's done a lot of good things for them. He's, as Ollie said, laid railways across the Empire. Now everything's connected. He's probably done it to expand his influence, but it's good for the people. And he's done other things and passed other laws that help regular people. So regular common people in Erebonia really like him. They like him just as much as the people in Liberl like Queen Alicia. But, maybe he's not so trustworthy. We've seen that he's kind of an asshole, and there's something up with him. There's something weird going on there. And that entire door was calling some big shots for the future, for the Erebonian arc, and maybe even a little before that. But that's the future, and that future is going to take a long time to wait through. So we'll stop for now. When we pick up next time, we got more Trails of the Sky the Third to do. I think we're caught up on our doors. I even was replaying a little bit of some of the doors that we've been through. I finally finished off the Annalise door, and I beat Richard. And I did like the second half of Estelle's fishing door, but not the final part. And we never found a thing for doing the second arena challenge with Zen. And I didn't go back and beat Jack yet at poker. But other than that, we've completely caught up, and we got to get back to the main quest. We got to finish off the 5th plane we're on. I can't remember how far we got. We got all the way to the door, right? To the Star Door 8. That is our furthest checkpoint. So we got a little bit more dungeon to go. And then we'll get to the end of the plane. We'll probably fight a devil or something. Finish out the chapter. I would think Kevin's going to be coming back in chapter 6. And then we'll see where this story goes. There's still a lot of mainline story that relates to Kevin and Ries and the main character development that they got to go through. There's still a lot there. But we also got more doors to go. We got 7 star doors that we haven't found yet. And a lot of them are going to be good. I said that Star Door 8 there we just did. That's my 3rd favorite, which means there are 2 ones better than it we haven't found yet. And those are going to be coming way later. Those are going to be the last 2 we do. So look forward to that. Oh, I can't wait. I love this game. I love you, Sky the Third. You get so much better with age. See you guys in the next one.